adjourn?
Motion by who?
Joe? Please vote. Passes 5-0. Next placeholder is a report out of closed session. We have no closed session report this evening. Next, information and discussion.
Good evening, Governing Board. I'd like to invite our data and assessment team and our ELA team following them to present at the front. We are going to provide a short presentation on the current California dashboard, and following that we'll be sharing our, I didn't do that. We'll be sharing our literacy project work and how we're taking a deep dive in addressing literacy and reading in Cajon Valley.
Hi, my name is Jana Leonard. I'm a coordinator in education services.
We're gonna have to have you speak into the microphone. People at home cannot hear. Yes.
Hi, my name is Jana Leonard. I'm a coordinator in ed services. I focus on data and assessment. We wanted to give you kind of an overview of data in Cajon Valley as well as some of our literacy efforts. The California dashboard released last month publicly. It is a public tool that communities use to gain easy access to reports that the state has for performance on K-12 schools and districts. And it's always a year behind, so the 2022-23 school year dashboard released, but it focuses on 2021-2022 school year data. And it starts with kind of a snapshot of what our demographics and student population looked like last year as a brief overview. This year, the dashboard looks different if you've seen it in previous years. Due to COVID, we did not have a dashboard in 2020 and 2022. So normally, the dashboard focuses on growth, and it looks at the previous year compared to the current school year and decides how the district is doing in growth on certain areas. This year, we don't have growth to base off of from last year, so it is strictly performance-based. So you will see what the state is terming cell phone bars, all purple, none of the pretty colors that they've had in previous years. This is a temporary change for this year only, because we'll now be able to move back to growth, having this dashboard this year. Next year, they'll move back to the beautiful color scheme that they had previously. It focuses on one snapshot of time on standard for students. It uses things like CASP, which is given in the spring. It was given spring of 2022, focusing on English language arts and math, as well as LPAC, which assesses English language proficiency for all of our English learners here in Cajon Valley. And it kind of focuses on a few different buckets of information. The first one is academic performance. Again, that's CASP and LPAC, English language arts and math, and then progress of students who are English learners, if they've made progress from one year to the next in their proficiency level. And you can see, and this will be a trend throughout our data for Cajon Valley, that is very comparable to where the state is performing as a whole. Also, similar trend for academic engagement, which looks at chronic absenteeism, which shows students who are absent for more than 10% of the instructional days of a school year. And again, this is focusing on last year's data, which we know that pandemic concerns were still an issue across the board for the state. So which is why you see a dramatic increase of chronic absenteeism across the state, not just in Cajon Valley. The last main area that the state focuses on for state indicators is suspension rates. And again, you can see that we're very comparable to where the state is at all around on the data. I'm gonna pause there before we go into iReady. It was a quick overview of the California dashboard, but are there any questions? And like I said, it is one snapshot of focusing all of our students on a specific standard. We all know that our students come with stories and journeys, and we can't tell the whole story with just the California dashboard. So we focus on iReady growth and looking at where a student starts and how they take that journey and growth throughout a school year. I'm gonna hand it over to my colleague to go over iReady growth.
Thank you, Jana. Good evening. My name is Chris Collins. I'm also a coordinator in Ed Services, and we're able to use this iReady growth data to honor each individual and their unique growth that they're making throughout the school year. iReady fosters 3 diagnostics that are given at the beginning, middle, and end of the year, and is able to give us whether or not a student is meeting typical growth or the expected growth that a student could achieve over the course of one academic school year. This gives us 3 points to check in with the student, see how they're doing, and it really allows teachers to drive instruction within the classroom based on each unique individual and where they come to us from. As you can see in the chart on the board, this is the 2023 projected math growth based off of the second diagnostic that's just wrapping up right now. About 3/4 of the students across the district have taken their second diagnostic. As you can see, 27% of students have already met typical growth or the expected growth for the course of an entire school year at the halfway point of the year right now. The students in the box are the students that are projected to make typical growth over the course of the school year. And we track these metrics to make sure that we're growing year over year with a larger proportion of students meeting typical growth. We are currently projected to increase by 10% in the proportion of students who are meeting typical growth in math. And it's a similar trend within reading, where 35% of students have already achieved typical growth for the year, and we are projected for 56% of students to achieve typical growth by the end of the year, with a 3% increase year over year. All of this data is allowing us to make real-time updates within the classroom and look at each student as a unique individual. Before I turn it over to Julie, who's going to take us on a literacy journey, I want to pause for any questions on iReady.
I'm just going back to Lena. When you say you take a snapshot, I noticed there were some dates that were mentioned. Is there criteria as how you pick the specific date, or is it just a random date that you pick?
For iReady or the dashboard?
The dashboard.
The dashboard is set by the state, so it depends on which assessment we're looking at. CASP is given on the window. The state opens a general window. It's usually in spring. We have ours kind of March to May. LPAC is a very set window for the entire state follows that window. It's February to May.
So it's not a specific date that you have presented to us, it's kind of the window.
The students take the test on a specific date,
Okay.
but the window is open for the district to choose when students take that date.
I see.
It's one snapshot, as in the student is only taking and engaging with that assessment on that date.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Julie Blake. I am one member of a very diverse team, and many of my team is back here. We're a literacy team that is in place to help support literacy outcomes here in Cajon Valley. The slide that you're looking on right now, in order to tell a full literacy picture, it's important to touch in what's happening nationally, what's happening in California, and then what's happening here in California, or in our Cajon Valley. So nationally, the last time this assessment was given was in 2019. And so this figure that you see here is showing that 67% nationally in the United States, 67% of fourth graders read below grade level. And that's a national average. And then you notice that the next statistic is 63% of graduating high school seniors are not proficient at reading. So we're not doing a lot to close that gap nationally. And so the last time this was reported was in 2019. This assessment's given every 2 years to kind of have us check into where does our state measure up against other state measures. In California, last year in 2022, we were ranked the lowest performing state in the nation. And so California has a long way to go to improve their literacy outcomes. So that's important to know when we look at the picture of Cajon Valley. So that's a little daunting to think about. So what is a root cause potentially that's leading to this? So this figure is looking at what's happening in the credential program. So in higher universities, there are 5 pillars that teachers know that they need to teach to fully produce literate students. And so they evaluated in California credentials. They looked at syllabi and all types of coursework to see what universities were teaching and preparing teachers in their credentials to teach all 5 pillars. And 69% of California programs do not cover all 5 of these pillars. So this is a main root cause. There's this knowledge gap of teachers graduating with credentials that have not been able to be instructed in all 5 pillars. I can give my own personal story as an example of this. I graduated locally here from the University of San Diego and got my credential there and was hired in Cajon Valley and have loved working here. I got a master's degree, was mentored to go get that higher degree, and I got a master's degree in teaching reading. And it wasn't until my own son started going to school and failing in school in 2nd grade because he had dyslexia that I really learned so much about teaching reading. I had been teaching K2 for my entire career. I was at 12 years in being a teacher, so I had some good experience behind me, and I couldn't pinpoint what was going on with my own child. And so the advocacy that I pursued more education, I had a master's and I needed to go beyond that to find out what was going on. So I traveled all the way to Colorado and got teacher training called Orton Gillingham. And after that training realized, why on earth was this not in my credential program? And so that's kind of driven some of the work that I do into supporting other teachers that have a similar story to me, because we care about our students deeply. So that's important to know, that that's a major root cause contributing to this predicament that we feel we're in. So now let's bring it closer to home, Cajon Valley. We use the model of all, some, and few. So all teachers in Cajon Valley have access to iReady and Common Curriculum. Some schools have been involved in the literacy project since 2021. And the focus of that project was really to get a common assessment on board called the core assessment. So we have iReady, but when we really want to get a laser-like focus of where students are doing and what a teacher needs to do next, we need more information. So we have been putting this common assessment in place and supporting teachers and administrators with professional learning to get that assessment on board at their school sites. And then we're very proud of a small group based on budget that we have. We have teachers going through deeper learning, and that's in the SUM category there, professional learning. We have a cohort of teachers right now that are most of them are instructional coaches that support their school sites, and they're going through deeper learning called LETTERS, and it stands for Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. We have a cohort of teachers going through Barton training, which supports teachers that are using Barton, which is specific for students with dyslexia. And then we have Project GLAD that's been in our ecosystem for some time. It's very structured, scaffolded techniques that teachers can use to help students with second language acquisition in their classroom. So looking forward in Cajon Valley, we've done a lot of looking at what are some challenges we have faced. So our current professional learning model can pose to be a problem sometimes because we can do training on Mondays, but sometimes there's not enough time to get the deep learning that we need going in sites. With the substitute shortage that we continually face, that can cause a problem when we are trying to execute implementation across the board. Not every school site has a instructional coach, which really helps with the ongoing implementation, coaching, and guidance that's needed for any new learning. And we find that to be, not equitable. So as we look forward into the future, we would love some support with continuing to build more structures in place to support continuous professional learning. We need money. So we do have a robust budget to continue. We want to value our teachers' time and make sure they're compensated with extra learning if it's above their contracted time. This is hard work. We're going to need support. If it was easy work, we wouldn't be in the national crisis that we are in right now. And so we really need to be thinking multi-year. So how can we get this going multi-year? And we need commitment from all stakeholders. So we hope that this is the beginning of multiple times that we can come and report out to you of the successes that our team is executing in our district. So thank you for your time and inviting us in today. Are there any questions?
I have a lot to say, and Julie, thank you so much, just coming and presenting in a transparent way where you were able to show us what we really need to work on. And recently, Karen and myself, and also our previous board member, Tamara Otero, we had the opportunity to participate in the Excel and Ed conference, which that's let out, mainly it's something that Jeb Bush puts together, and I thought it was so insightful for us to be a part of this conference because it really just helped us to understand the dive in as to where we are as far as literacy. They use Mississippi as an example, yes. And the reason why they use Mississippi as an example is because Mississippi was the lowest performing state in the country when it came to literacy. So coming back out of that conference, which this is the reason why conferences are so important. If we just dial into California State Board Association conference, then we lack the information of what other conferences can provide for us. So I applaud our cabinet to help us to understand even more what we can do for our students as far as literacy goes, which is very, very important to me. So, and I've heard a lot about you. I've never been able to meet you in person, so thank you for coming tonight. A couple of things that kind of bent my ear as far as what they talked about at this conference. Number one being, and I apologize to anyone that I may offend out there, but they talk about Lucy Calkins. They talk about it's not a service to our students when we implement this particular curriculum. And I know that some of our educators out there are using this particular curriculum. And it kind of teaches the mechanics of reading where it can confuse students, and it lacks the opportunity for students to just understand the concept of thinking, to identify and memorize words, to have that word go into your deep memory, and to be able to not only say the word, but to understand the word and understand the vocabulary meaning of that word instantly, right? And a lot of our students are saying, I don't want to be Mississippi anymore. Take that back. I do want to be Mississippi.
Yes.
Because Mississippi is, yes, because, so, I want to support your work. I'm here for you, and I hear you, what you say you need to continue to build your structures, and money, and the value, helping the teachers get the time. In the past, we've had our badging system. I don't know if that's something, but I'll tell you, there's a man in this room who held my feet to the fire and said, Joe, Cajon Valley has to get better. So I'm grateful for going to that conference. I'm grateful for the information, and I'm grateful for people in this community who know Cajon, we have some work to do, which is good, and we can do this. We're Cajon Valley, right? So thank you, Julie, for coming. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Lena.
Jana.
Jana. Sorry, I'll get it right. What's your last name?
Leonard. It's a lot easier than the first.
I do have a question. What is the curriculum that we're using, and at what age or grade are we using that curriculum? Because we do have a lot of English language learners, and
So, in the first tier there that you see all, this is the curriculum that we have available to all staff.
that's
Yeah.
National Geographic is geared towards our elementary grades. Study Sync is middle school, and then Inside is used mostly at the middle school level for our newcomer classes.
so those are the only three curriculums.
Those are our stated
Stated
adopted.
adopted.
So that's your baseline.
Baseline, got it.
But that means teachers can also kind of work in their own systems too, if they want to.
Well, and I just wanted to respond to the Lucy Calkins. So A lot of districts here in San Diego supported huge cohorts of teachers going to Lucy Calkins training, and our district, it was specific for writing, and where she's being criticized is her reading intervention program. That's the one that's being very scrutinized in the world right now. So a lot of the support that Cajon Valley gave was on specific to writing, and so everything is bad Lucy Calkins right now is what people are saying, but that's not the full truth. That's not the full story.
Okay.
So it's important that we know and we support our teachers, because we do have teachers using Lucy Calkins writing and having great success with their students.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you for answering that.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming to the board tonight and giving your report. Some noteworthy things you said, at least I took notes of them, so I guess that makes them noteworthy, for me anyway. Not every school site has an instructional home coach. Our current professional learning model can be a challenge, and I don't want to misquote you, but we ought to build more structures to support continuous professional learning. Setting huge cohorts of teachers to do professional learning, so that sounds wonderful.
It does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the whole team, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Look forward to the next report.
Next item, public hearing. Go to 8A on the Kindu Academy. We do have public speakers requested on this one. If the speakers will please, in order, first take a seat, and then the next line up behind them, that would be outstanding. So we had, yes?
We do an introduction first, Kristen Vargas.
So you want to have our presentation first and then the public speakers?
Yes, just an introduction.
Sounds great. Let's go. I thought we were doing the other way around. Sorry, let's go.
Is it okay if I take this?
Good evening. Thank you so much for allowing us to come and present to you for our material revision. I'm Kristen Vargas. I'm the Executive Director and Principal at Cadino Academy. And I wanted to introduce, this is Dr. Nori Barca. He's our Board President, and our Business Manager, Delano Jones. We just have a very quick presentation and overview of our material revision for you this evening.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Nuri Barca. I'm the chairman of the board for Cadino Academy. We started Cadino 2018, and your board approved our school as the first, maybe the first independent charter school in El Cajon, in Cajon Valley District. We're proud of that. We are proud to be a partner with you. We work together very closely with your team and with Scott, with David, with everybody of you to make our school meet the gold standard that you ask us to do. And actually one of the challenges we are facing at our school since we started was finding the right building for our school. And as you know, in El Cajon, it's very hard to find a school building, and even that we can ask the district to help us to find a school because Prop 39 basically mandates the district to provide, a school for a charter school, but we didn't go that route. We decided to face the challenge ourselves. We worked hard. We were able to manage for the last 3-4 years. Now we have found a location which can suit our school, and we can, at least give a better environment for our kids. And that's our proposal to you, and we look forward to working closely with you and with everybody else. And we thank our principal for her work, grand job she is doing, and thank you everybody.
So our material revision is essentially the same petition that was before you back in 2018. Our educational program has not changed in any manner. The material revision has been brought up to legal standard as of right now and is incorporating the new property at Granite Hills. Our intention is to maintain the Second Street property for now, and have next year have our TK through 3rd grade housed at Cadino North, which is on 2nd Street, and open Cadino South, and have our 4th and 5th graders move over to Cadino South. The rationale for that is that the Granite Hills property currently will only house 250 students, which is similar to our current site right now, which we're busting at the seams. But the Granite Hills property can take on tenant improvements and be expanded on both the east and the west sides of the building to allow for future occupancy. So that's our plan at this time. And I'm gonna have Delano just kind of speak to the budget that you saw in front of you as well.
Thank you, Kristen. I'm not sure if I need this, I'm kind of loud as is. But I really wanted to speak to the progress that Cajon has made over the last 3 years. I can recall standing here a few years ago and speaking to the growth at that point in time and the potential for this school. And I think we can see now that coming to light, that coming to fruition in terms of us having the possibility of having our own home, which I'm sure everyone in this room, including the board, can certainly understand that we've worked certainly extremely hard with the support of Dr. Mark and the board, with Kristen as the executive director, to put in place a plan that speaks to that, right? We will have a school that is our own. We have the financing in place to address that. We also have our reserves as well, which for the last 3 years, we have certainly been mindful of being very frugal with our expenditures and making sure that when this day came that we were ready for it. I think in the budget that you will see, if you have not seen it yet, it does speak to that. You can see our fund balance, which is quite healthy for a school of this size and relatively new if you consider 3 to 4 years of new charter school. So they've done extremely well and they're poised for success in terms of taking on this new role, taking on this new responsibility. And again, I just want to thank you guys for your time and appreciation in terms of coming and getting your support of us. So thank you so much.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask you if you have any questions or.
Questions by the board?
Where's the site on Second Street exactly?
We're currently residing at 1025 North 2nd Street, and the new property is 1701 Granite House.
So Kristen, you mentioned that you're gonna co-populate for the next school year. Is the plan in the following school year to vacate Second Street?
The exact transition for full transition over is undetermined and obviously kind of restricted by our budget. Because the tenant improvements to build out the entire Granite Hills property is gonna be quite costly, and, you know, without knowing the exact cost of construction at the time that we're able to undertake it, it'll be kind of like to be determined at this time.
And that's your goal to fully inhabit the space that we.
Our goal is to build out the Granite Hills property so that we can fully occupy Granite Hills as much as we're able to, so.
Other questions?
All right, well, thank you so much for your time.
Back in 2018, when you first presented, it's always been anticipated to grow, right? COVID, not anticipated by anybody. So recognize that we've had a little bit of time. Otherwise, you probably would have been bringing this to us 2 years ago. So, no, thank you. We do have speaker cards. So, yes.
Open the hearing.
Oh. Open the hearing. Hearing is now open. Raid Benham. If you'll please take the chair following Raid. Fadi Jacob. Please stand behind. And behind Yadi. Ibu Shamasha. If I'm getting close, I apologize for any enunciations. Nori Zori will be behind that individual.
Okay. Is that it?
Is Lana Tahio would be the last on that topic. There we go. All right.
So I will start the timer. You'll see it for 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, the board. Thank you, Ms. Focus, for giving me this opportunity to speak. My name is Ray Vietnam. I'm a parent of an 8-year-old daughter. She has been attending Cadino Charter School, Cadino Academy Charter School since 2018, since TK, and she's still going there. I have even enrolled her in the extended hours program. She loves the school. Sometimes she tells me I want to stay there until 6, until they close. She definitely loves the school. I think they're doing a tremendous job, with pretty much raising our kids, not only academically, but in preparing them to become better citizens of this country. So I extend my gratitude for the entire staff, from the board to the principal, to the teachers, to the entire staff for doing such a tremendous job. So I definitely want to see Cadino Academy Charter School extend and grow. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Fadi Yaqub. Hi everyone, my name is Fadi Yaqub. I am a parent for 2 kids at Cadino Academy School. I have a 3rd grade Jonathan, and I have a TK Brandon. They are very happy at school. Every single day they learn more and more. I can explain to you this school in 2 words. I need at least paragraph. I know I have a short time, but this school is perfect for us, and they have a nice staff. They're working on it. We are very happy on the school. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, ready?
Hello everyone, I'm Hiba Shamasha. Can you hear me? I'm Hiba Shamasha, one of the parents for Cadino Academy. I have 2 girls over there. I have one started at the beginning of when they started opening. Until now she's in 1st grade, and the other one she's in TK. As a parent, we always look for a school, for best school to our children. And then I know there is a lot of schools around, but I can see the difference in Cadino Academy. So when we look for reviews online, Cadino has 5 stars, and then none of the parents even talk anything bad of Cadino. Also, I can see it, I can tell of my kids, because my kids a little bit like, they don't like schools, but in this school, they really love going to school, and when they come back, they tell me about everything they enjoy at school. And this school, it has a lot of different activities within the time of the school and within like after school programs. And this year they have a lot of robotics and dance, yoga and Arabic. So they teach a lot of things that none of all our schools do. Also, what I really like about this school is their teachers. They share everything what happened with the kids, and they love the opportunity. They give the opportunity to parents to share with them. So they have the program called Class Jojo. They share everything with us, and then we as parents we're happy to hear from the teachers. Also, the ratio between the students and the teacher in the classroom is, I know they just started, but there's not a lot of students in the class, which give the opportunity to the students to talk with the teachers and to have one-to-one. And then even if the kids are shy or something like my kids, they have the opportunity to talk and ask questions and engage with the teacher. Yeah, that's all. I really thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, ready?
Hi, my name is Nora Zori. I'm a parent of Isel and Isaac Zori. First, I want to thank the board for allowing Cadino Academy to open in our neighborhood. We're very fortunate and blessed to be part of Cadino. Cadino is not just a school, Cadino is a family and a community. There's a lot of things that I love about Cadino. They have amazing staff, great curriculum, but I have to say my favorite thing about Cadino is that each class have teacher and teacher aide, which you can find that in a lot of schools. And most of the teacher aides are bilingual, and some of them are trilingual, which really helps families that don't speak English to, communicate with the teacher. And yeah, so there's a lot of things, but my kids used to go to a different school, but 3 years ago I moved them to Cadino, and we're just so happy every morning and excited to go to Cadino. So I'm very thankful and blessed to be part of Cadino. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, ready?
Hi, my name is Lina Jaju. I'm a mother of 2 kids, 7 and 8 years old. I feel blessed that my kids are now at the charter school, Cadino. They have more opportunity to learn new things. They have learned a lot of new things. They are now more better. Me as a mother, I'm seeing my kids, they are getting better in all classes, all things they are getting, like math and English. One of my kids is in IEP program, special need program, and I see my kid, he's progressing. He's doing better than before. And I want to talk about safety of school when the parents go drop the kids at school. It's very high quality what they have. The staff there, the teachers, the principal, they go, they open the doors for the kids of the car, of the parents' car, they take the kids out, they line up the cars, and even you have there a safety place where you can park your car and get your kids out of the car and get them to the school. Especially they have even high quality of teaching there. Their teachers, the staff, the principal, really high quality of staff that I saw there. Before my kids, they were in public school, and I had a lot of issues there and a lot of concerns before. I used to be very scared to bring my kids to school when they were in the public school. There was a lot of absence for my kids because I was scared to take them to school over there. But now I'm more happy and I feel blessed that my kids are going to Cajon school. Thank you.
Thank you. Board, any further comments, questions?
I just want to say I appreciate the parents who came out. I can really sense a heartfelt gratitude to those who have really helped and supported me in the kids in school. I love everything that was said. I would like to see, if it's available or possible, to see somewhat of the demographics of what the school's student populations are. How many, perhaps, Arabic-speaking children, other Middle Eastern-speaking children, perhaps if there are any American students, born and raised here, perhaps, even a demographic of if there's special needs. Something similar to what we would produce for our community to show, because sometimes, to be honest with you, when you have a student population of a blend or a mix, we have to really take into consideration a lot of different needs for a student. Like, for example, Cajon Valley, we have a lot of IEPs here. There's a lot of IEPs. There's a lot of needs, and I would just like to see, if possible, if you can, just show us perhaps what kinds of things is Cadino struggling with, if not any.
Thank you, Joe. Any other comments? Hearing no other comments, we will close the public hearing. Next on the agenda is the consent items, starting with 9A through G. Or we have a consent agenda.
We have 2 speaker cards on that, please.
We do? Yes, I know. Clicking through. So as with the last speakers, if the first speaker will please take a seat, and the next speaker please stand behind them. David, you'll take a seat, please.
I'm going to decline tonight.
Okay, thank you. Chrissy, you're up.
President Miller,
Yes.
if I want to request that the approved board meeting minutes be pulled from the consent agenda and voted on separately, should I do that now or after public comment?
After public comment. But that would be fine.
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My name is Chrissy, if you guys don't know me. I'm urging the board
to make sure that the bylaws were followed and relook at the minutes before approving them. If in fact there was a misstep, it is important to fix it. We all know how, at minimal, 3 of the board members feel about the value Tamara has brought to the district. So I don't doubt that if this consult contract was brought to the board following the bylaws, that it would pass by majority, if not by all. It would be nice to make it right so it is more transparent and follows the proper bylaw protocols. Tamara, as the owner of Alphabet Soup, would still retain her job, but it would show that you value the community's concerns and value the bylaws that are in place. Also, in addition to that, when you do relook at it, a statement of work to really detail and justify like a $10,000 a month consult job that the public and the board could hold the Alphabet Soup LLC accountable to make sure that the work that is promised is delivered, and we could measure the goals in case it's brought to the board again to renew. Thank you.
Thank you, Chrissy. Anthony. Yeah, David passed on his comment. So Anthony, this is the time if you want to pull the minutes for purposes of, before we get on consent.
Yes, I request that item 9B approved board meeting minutes be pulled and voted on separately.
With the request by trustee Carnavale, we will pull 9B. We will vote on A through G separately. We need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Motion by Karen.
Second.
Second by Anthony.
Yeah, we can't hear Anthony.
He's a very quiet gentleman. Louder next time.
We had no problem hearing Jill over there.
As amended, we pass 5-0. With regard to 9B, point of the minutes, we will separately vote on that. We have a motion on the minutes. Yeah, we'll do discussion first, that's correct. So go ahead, first, yes. And guys, slow me down, because remember, I wanted to do this, before we vote, before we ask for motions, I want to do discussion. So if you have discussion, because you can pull the item, I did not request discussion. So I presume you want discussion on this one?
Yes.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, so December 13th board meeting, agenda item 13F, item number 16, Alphabet Soup LLC, to approve a consulting agreement through December 2020, from December 2022 through June of 2023, for $60,000 source of funds, district funds. The agenda setting for the December 13th meeting was December 8th. Superintendent Miyashiro confirmed with me that President at the time, Tamara Otero, Vice President at the time, Trustee Jim Miller, were at the agenda setting, Tamara acting in her official capacity as president there. I became aware Friday, January 6th, I want to say, that Tamara Otero is the manager, owner of Alphabet Soup LLC. Trustee Miller was at that agenda setting and confirmed with me he was also not aware that Ms. Otero owned the LLC.
I will confirm that. I didn't.
So, you know, at least 2 of us up here out of 5. Okay, so 3 of us out of 5 up here at the board. 4. Trustee Georgie's, am I allowed to ask where you were?
I didn't know.
Okay, so none of us were aware of that. And now, I argue that section 9270 of our board bylaws, titled Conflict of Interest, voids this agreement. And I'll read some excerpts from that. So
I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm going to, since I'm present. This is whether we are or are not ratifying minutes. This is not to pontificate on the validity of the contract. That's already been discussed in a different setting, as you're aware. So, reading into the board bylaws, I'll allow you that leeway, but it makes no difference as to what we are or are not going to do. So you're aware as to the procedure, right? You've pulled the minutes. The question becomes, when you pull minutes, are the minutes accurate as reflected at the time of the meeting? Or are they not accurate as time of reflected at the meeting? And if they are not accurate, then to provide some sort of requested amendment or modification. That's what pulling of the minutes does. So I think what you have done is properly clarify the record that at the time that item came before us, we knew that it was a business entity of an LLC, which is a separate entity under the state of California's laws, but we do not know the ownership of that entity. I think that's a good clarification and is accurate for purposes of why we pull minutes. And we can adjust the minutes to state at the time that item was voted upon, we did not know the ownership of the LLC. That's about the extent of what pulling the minutes does. Right, with that clarification, Trustee Carnevale, do you want to continue forward, or can we move forward with the meeting?
President Miller, I would ask, when would be the appropriate time? If we took an action at the last board meeting that is voided by our own board bylaws, when would be the appropriate time to raise that issue?
So the appropriate time would be for purposes of our meeting, coming down to future agenda items, which is 12A. And as I have indicated, we will be placing an item on 12A, and you're welcome to do so, otherwise I'll be doing so on that particular topic.
The part where I have some confusion is I'm not asking for an agenda item to be placed. I'm
Pulling the minutes
board
doesn't-
bylaws, and it says a contract we made at the last board meeting is void. Would it be board report? Future,
No.
I don't think it's necessary to have a future agenda item. It's just that an agenda item we voted on is void.
Okay.
It's a process question, not a minutes question.
Correct.
A process question.
Right, because again, for the purpose of pulling the minutes, one, right, is as I said, to correct minutes, which I think you laid out a correct foundation to add to the minutes for clarity. Good job. Secondly, though, if we're gonna take an action, which is to do something or to not do something on what we've already voted on, that would be an agendized item, so we can properly address it under an agendized item, as a board. That's where we do it. Right.
If the board bylaws say something is void, does it require action of the board to reiterate the board bylaws?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we decide, it becomes void, but again, it becomes a legal issue, one, or could be, as to whether or not we do want to put it. How do we move forward is certainly not in this particular context of pulling the minutes of the consent items. So, not that the discussion is going to be stopped right now, it's going to be suspended until the appropriate time to have that conversation. So I'm going to move the meeting along respectfully. With the clarifications as to the last minutes, what I would like to do is now vote on 9B, the meeting minutes, with the clarifications added by Trustee Carnevale, please.
And also a point of clarification, and for the record, that we've asked for a legal opinion on this, and we're awaiting that.
Excellent. With that additional note, do we have a motion to accept the minutes with that modification and clarification?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Motion by Trustee Carnevale. Do we have a second?
Second.
We'll go with Joe. Second. We'll do an oral vote. Please vote. Ayes? Aye. Any nays?
Aye. Sorry. Wait on that.
So 5-0.
He's on the aye. He's at 5-0.
Juliana, I have.
Yes, I heard her. Yes, Juliana. Okay. We are now going to move on to our action items. The first is to accept our annual audit report. I believe we have a presentation on that.
I have John.
John Whitehouse from CPA firm will be just giving an overview and highlights, and then open to the board for questions about the audit.
Good evening, Governing Board. My name is John Whitehouse. I'm a CPA with Christy White Associates. I'm the partner overseeing the engagement. Thank you for having me here. We concluded our audit of the district's funds, capital assets, long-term debt, compliance with state and federal law for the year ended June 30, 2022. Our audit is comprised of two phases. One is the interim phase that begins in the spring of each year, followed by our year-end phase, which is in the fall annually. Our audit includes, but is not limited to, documenting and testing internal controls in areas such as purchasing, cash disbursements, payroll, and cash receipts, testing state compliance in areas such as attendance reporting, instructional time, and instructional materials, conducting a single audit, which includes testing internal controls and program compliance in relation to the federal grants the district receives. For this year, there was two major federal programs tested. That was the Education Stabilization Fund discretionary grants and the Child Nutrition cluster of programs. And finally, we tested all June 30, 2022 balance sheet accounts such as cash, accounts receivable, accounts payable, capital assets, and long-term debt, along with revenues and expenditures across each fund. The results of our audit tests are reflected in the independent auditor's reports and summary of auditor's results in the audit report. We opined on the financial statements, the report on state compliance, and the report on federal compliance, all which were given unmodified opinions for the year ended June 30, 2022. An unmodified opinion is the best opinion you can receive from an external audit firm. There were no findings or question costs noted for the year ended June 30, 2022. And on page 85 of the report is a great summary of those audit results for the independent auditor reports. Any questions about the report?
Any chance you can page 85, but page 1 next?
Yeah.
Just a second. Questions from the board?
Well, thank you, that is good news. Great work for our team.
Any additional supplementation, Scott? You want to add to that at all?
I just want to thank, Miranda couldn't be here tonight, she's still having some vacation time, much deserved, for her staff. The ones work so closely with our auditors, tremendous job again this year. Finding it's always nice to see, so, thank you for work.
Absolutely. With the presentation, do we have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Karen. Second by Anthony. Please vote when it comes up. Passes 5-0. Our next item on the agenda, we have 10B. That's to ratify the collective bargaining agreements. Any questions on this particular topic? Hearing none, do we have any motions on the topic?
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Karen. Trustee Jersey, seconds. Please vote when it comes up. Passes 5-0. Next item 10C is to adopt the resolution continuing governing board authority to hold virtual meetings as we are approaching February and the politicized aspect of the pandemic is supposed to be over. We won't have to have this item, I believe, on future agendas, but for right now, it's still here. Do we have any questions on it before we motion? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Karen. Second by Trustee Jerseys. Please vote. passes 4-1. Next, we have our consulting agreements on 10D. Following agreements have been submitted to the board for approval. Do we have any questions on the consulting agreements?
I have a question on item 1, if I may.
Of course.
Again, this agenda item says, funding source, all costs will be reimbursed from the WOW Foundation through attendee payments. I believe it was established at the last board meeting that it's within the realm of possibility that all costs will not be reimbursed from the WOW Foundation through attendee payments. At that time, the WOW Foundation was potentially scheduled this month to have a meeting to vote on a repayment plan for I think the district is somewhere north of $330,000 from our district funds for this conference. Has the foundation voted on a repayment plan with the district?
Our attorneys are still working on the draft of the agreement.
Do we have a time frame that's been on that, Scott?
It was before the holidays, but I haven't gotten it yet. I'll follow up this week.
All right, thank you. Well, if you could please, when you do follow up, if you will contact Trustee Carnavale so that he's looped in on that particular topic, it would be appreciated. Anything else?
May we pull item 1 and vote on the rest separately?
Yes, absolutely. Any question on any of the other topics? Hearing none, we will vote on 10C with the exception of 10C subsection 1. Do we have a motion? Pardon me, 10D.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Anthony. Second by Trustee Jurges, thank you. Matter passes 5-0. With the polling and now separate vote as to 10D subsection 1, which is the Horst Schultz Consulting for $2,500. Again, as Trustee Carnavale has pointed out, the funding source is to be a reimbursement concept through the WOW Foundation. As he's also pointed out, and thank you, Scott, for clarifying the contacts or the contract status between the two. I will take the opportunity just to simply state that in my interaction with Horst Schultz and his interaction, I think, with the district, even if he wasn't going to be reimbursed, this man is worth every penny he could ever bring to us. Phenomenal, visionary to leadership, just outstanding. Those are my comments from my experience. With that said and done, do we have a separate motion to adopt 10D1? Motion from Joe. I will second from Karen, thank you. We will vote by an oral vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any nays? No. No from Trustee Carnavale, passes 4-1. Moving now to 10E. These are our site safety and school plans. Would you like to comment upon any of these?
Would you come and just share the process that each of our sites have gone through in addition to your oversight?
Yeah, so basically what we do is we, as a school site safety council advisory team, we meet about 5 times a year.
Brian, I'm gonna just stop for 1 second. Keeping in mind that we have people possibly online who do not know who you are. If you just introduce yourself.
Oh, I apologize. First of all, good evening, governing board. My name is Ryan Love. I'm the coordinator of safety and security for the district. Thank you, Trustee Miller. And so basically, we meet about 5 times a year. We work very closely with our local law enforcement, fire department, city mayor, board of supervisors. We work on strategies to reduce crime, violence, and disruptive behaviors as it relates to any human threats or any type of environmental hazards that may affect our school sites. We basically have, there's 3 parts of the plan. There's the emergency operation administration, there's the emergency operation staff section, and then there's the CSSP, which is the Comprehensive School Safety Plan. And basically, the admin and the staff emergency operation plan deals with active threats. When we do meet, we train on our ALICE procedures, what to do in the event of a violent critical incident, lockdown procedures, secure campus, shelter in place, and then the comprehensive school safety plan deals more with the discipline, school attendance, bullying issues and concerns, discrimination concerns. So there's 3 different parts, and so we work on those plans throughout the school year, and then we have one final public meeting where we invite the public to come in and give their opinion before it goes before you guys for final approval.
Questions from the board?
So this is just about Chase, but it's the same plan for all schools? Is that my understanding?
Well, for the most part, yes. It's encouraged that each plan adopt anything that's specific to an outside or an issue that they may come across on their campus. The best example I can give, Las Cochas Creek has a lot of snakes up in that region, so it would be it would be important for them to come up with some type of plan in the event of snakes. But for the most part, when it comes to our lockdown procedures, our communication protocols, what are our reunification protocols in the event we need to reunify our students with their parents, and then what are the communication protocols to alert staff or students in the presence of dangers, those are all pretty much the same in each plan.
And as far as safety plan, is drop off and pickup a part of those plans as well?
No, not routinely. That would be something that we would, now, it's not something we can put it in there, but it's not something that we have in the past. But we do, on a separate note, we do have a traffic management plan for each site that's provided to the California Highway Patrol, and so that's how we do have a plan in place, if you will, for our sites, yes.
Mr. Love, on page 4 of the comprehensive school safety plan, it mentions each site created a set of emergency response protocol for substitute personnel, posted a sign in each classroom listing the school name, phone number, address, and classroom number, replaced supplies, and site emergency events, and facilitated a debrief of a site lockdown drill. Are these like written materials in the class, or is there a program for substitute teachers when they're coming to a new school site to get a brief from someone on site?
Each site should be providing substitutes with a binder that has all the information, phone numbers, what our emergency protocols are, how to get on the emergency PA system and making an announcement. What specifically would you say during a drill or an actual emergency? And then even how to basically call 911.
Any other questions? Ryan, if you will, just for our new trustees, anybody that doesn't know, could you just run down the ALICE protocol for a second?
Yeah, sure, certainly. So ALICE is an acronym for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, Evacuate. So the County Office of Education, typically they train the other 41 school districts in our county with Run, Hide, Fight. So it's basically an option in the event that we were ever faced with a violent critical incident. The reason why myself and the cabinet and some board members decided to stick with ALICE is because it is about alerting others to the presence of danger. When you're talking about the informed process, Run, Hide, Fight is, in my opinion, more about self-preservation. I'm not saying Run, Hide, Fight is bad. I'm just saying for the purposes of a school environment, to tell a teacher you may have to fight a perpetrator is not something that we wanted to include in our district. So when we talk about the counter, it gives us options to be able to not necessarily fight, but to counter the attack in order to allow us the opportunity to evacuate. So the alert part of it is basically when you hear that first, or you see that first, using your 5 senses of the presence of danger, that's the time to act. It's not waiting for somebody else to make the notification. The one thing that we promote in this district is every single staff member, I don't care if you're a substitute, custodian, food worker, everyone has the authority to make an announcement in the event of emergency.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
motion to adopt.
Motion by Karen, second by Joe. Motion passes 5-0. And just on a side note, how we take and address security in our district, I'm exceptionally proud of. It's been a priority since I came on the board. The board's always supported it, the cabinet has supported, bringing Ryan on, it's been fantastic. Met with Kelly Martinez the other day. Ryan, she knows your name, so that when the new sheriff knows the name of our director of security, that's a good thing. It's part of my board report, I suppose, but nonetheless, thank you very much. Next, we go into communications. Do we have a moment of silence?
Yes, it's item there.
So future agenda items will be later. Okay, here we go. Okay, we have a moment of silence. We have Paula Tracy. Paula is a retired teacher from Greenfield Middle School. Steve Hillary. Steve was a retired day custodian from Mission Elementary School. Madison Elementary School. Don't have my glasses on. Genevieve Wiley. Genevieve was a retired teacher from Vista Grande Elementary School. Ann Sullivan. Ann is a retired special education teacher from Rancho San Diego Elementary School. Please bow our heads in a moment of silence. Thank you. Michelle, retirements?
We do. Sadly, we have 3 retirements we're announcing this evening. The first is Tanya Bison. She's an extended day program site lead, currently working at Meridian, and Tanya's been with us for 18 years, and she'll be retiring in June. Mark Mendoza, our fabulous director for Child Nutrition Services, has been with the district for 12 years, and he'll also be retiring in June. So stock up on the cinnamon rolls and all the other yummy items. And Kelly Cardona, she's our campus safety lead at Hillsdale, has been with us for 10 years, and she will be retired. Actually, she retired yesterday, as a matter of fact. So some really fabulous people going on to a new chapter, and we're super excited for them. And we're gonna get it back to Sun Forest.
Absolutely.
Never actually get to leave Common Valley.
Our thanks from the board. Next, we go into public participation. We have 1 card. Chrissy?
Sure, family. I'm bringing up the policy that was brought up last week that kind of makes teachers informants. I think making staff informants is dangerous and assumes that the teachers have no bias and the parents have no recourse outside the courtroom. Having staff risk their jobs to protect their lives and their own families, I don't think is reasonable. Domestic disputes, we know, can be very volatile and dangerous. Also assuming that the staff knows the student's parents well enough to comment on who is a better parent, I don't think really benefits the student or the parents. And I will speak from somewhat personal experience of a family member that the court system failed one of my family members time and time again, giving him back to an abusive parent. And that abusive parent had several character things against her, but because she's a mom, they like to keep mom figures still in the life, at least in the court system that we know, that when she still had 50-50 custody, what she did is she read and she saw, oh, this teacher, and they were from Cajon Valley, this coach from Rios Canyon, this person, they all don't like me. So she was able to remove the student from all the trusted adults around them and move them schools, move them to a new baseball field where they didn't have any friends, they didn't have the support system. And I think that that's something to also consider. And I think that mandating reporting, if there's abuse or neglect, still protects the teacher, protects the student, protects everybody, where this new policy that would also affect their job, I think is unreasonable, because as we often know in domestic disputes, usually there is someone that's naughty, and those people could follow them outside of work, harass them in their homes, harass them at the grocery store, especially if they live in the area. And I think that it's just assuming that everybody has the best interest of the child at heart, when unfortunately we know that's not always the case, whether it's the parent or the staff, and sometimes even the student. Students don't always tell the truth about their home situation, you know, to make sure they're with a certain parent over another. So that is my opinions. I don't think you should make staff informants. So, thank you.
As we do not address matters during this period of time, I'll address at the time of board comment. Next, CVEA.
Happy New Year, welcome back, yeah, that's it.
CSEA, Mark, anything?
No report.
Thank you. And we have a new holder, CVAA.
Yes. Oh, dang.
I know. So I don't really have a report, but I wanted to introduce myself. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sarah Robinson. I'm the principal at Magnolia, but I'm also the president of our Cajon Valley Administrators Association. And something that's special about our little group is that we're much smaller, but we're also not a bargaining unit. So we're not a union. We're a group of professionals that get together and support each other in pursuit of our promises, our mission, and our vision. So I'm really honored that I get to come sit next to these cool guys back here and listen to all the things that are happening here. So I'll see you guys every 2 weeks. So I'm excited for that. And I just wanted, for our new board members, Juliana, my school is in the New area, so congratulations. And then Anthony, I live kind of out by you guys, so welcome. And if any of you wanted to get together or chat, you can reach me on district email. And if any of my colleagues are still at work, please go home. Many of you are listening. Several people in this room. Thank you guys. Happy New Year.
Thank you. So the next item, we have 12A, which is to discuss future agenda items. I know where I'm going with this. I'm going to assume Anthony has something. Does anybody have a future agenda item?
Yes.
Karen, please go.
I would like to actually invite during our communications times our PTA, PTO president, so we get information from them during this time. And add that to the agenda.
That's easy for me.
It's like we got one.
Not specific schools, but the overall.
You mean the PTA council?
The council, yes, thank you.
Reach out to Janina.
Does that include the PTO though?
PTO's not included in that. The PTO.
No. No, future agenda items don't require motions. So council. Anybody else?
Can I just get a clarification on Robert's Rules of Order? Because I did have a community member talk to me about the Rules of Order, so is it, here's what I need clarification for. Is it motion first, then discussion, or a call for discussion and then the motion? It's not necessarily a future agenda item, I just need clarification.
I want to say technically it's a call for the motion and then a discussion.
Oh, yes.
However, when you think about it, it seems a little backwards.
I know, but I wanted to get the clarification with the authority.
Sure. Anybody else before I go?
Should I speak up, or you know about me already?
That was a very open-ended statement by anybody. Well, you know that I'm going to be making the item. If you don't want to make the item, but either way it works. You just tell me.
I'll let you make the item. I'm still wondering whether we need to put on the future agenda if our board bylaw says a contract is void. So I'll read it here for everyone to reference. So again, going back to that vote we took at the last board meeting, and reading from the board bylaws conflict of interest excerpt. Conflict of interest under Government Code 1090, financial interest in a contract. board members, employees, or district consultants shall not be financially interested in any contract made by the board on behalf of the district, including in the development, preliminary discussions, negotiations, compromises, planning, reasoning, and specifications and solicitations for bids. If a board member has such a financial interest in a contract made by the board, the contract is void. Common law doctrine against conflict of interest says a board member shall abstain from any official action in which his or her private or personal interest may conflict with his or her official duties. Now, when we're speaking about this board took the actions and took the vote. Ms. Otero, as board president, we're in this transitionary period. She sets the agenda December 8th with the superintendent. We get the agenda and vote on it. We vote on the agenda on December 13th. Section 9121 of our board bylaws, titled President, I'll read an excerpt. The president shall perform other duties in accordance with the law and board policy, including but not limited to consulting with the superintendent on the preparation of the board's agenda, and working with the superintendent to ensure that board members have necessary materials and information. It is my position, I think it's this board bylaws position, but it's my position that Tamara was acting in her official capacity as board president when the agenda was set, and therefore section 9270 board bylaws conflict of interest makes the contract void. Now, if it's a requirement that we agendize that to some agenda to just reiterate our existing board bylaws, I would do that, but I would also argue that it's not necessary in this case.
So it's not really, again, overly discussion. However, in principle, you can't declare something void without making a determination that it is void. We don't have an agendized action item before us to therefore void or find that the contract is to be void. Does that make sense procedurally? I'm not disagreeing with your reading, I'm disagreeing with how we have to proceed to make that happen.
Okay, I'm going to defer to your expertise on that.
Because just in theory, right, or how it works in practice, if you operate under a contract, say it's a construction contract, and say that, I'm just been going a little off talking points here, but say that contract is done by a contractor who's not licensed, that contract's void. Does that mean that the work doesn't get done? It's up to the homeowner or the person contracted with that unlicensed contractor as to how it goes. Just as an example, and then there's a bunch of other remedies as to whether payment happens and so forth. But nonetheless, we would still have to find that the contract, pursuant to our bylaws, that the bylaws apply to the contract in an action item. And by applying it to the action item, then we find that it's void, procedurally. So, with that explanation, my agenda item that we will add will be to, one, bring the contract back for review, reset it on the agenda for purposes of new motion, new ratification. Now that we have clarity and that transition period, which unfortunately took place, can be addressed by everybody on this board, because again, we vote on contracts and consulting agreements all the time that are entities, S corporations, LLCs, etc. And we don't know all ownership because they're separate entities. By law, they exist upon themselves. So with that, we're going to agendize, and I'll be sitting in the agenda. I don't know who has agenda setting with me next time, but make a note. Anything else, board?
What is the status of the contract while it's pending agendization at the next meeting?
We're not going to go into closed session discussion.
This is a consultant hearing.
We've had closed session discussion. We're not going to go there.
Can I ask you in is this, what would be the status of the contract while we wait?
The contract has been one ratified at our last hearing, or our last board meeting. Two, we are resetting that contract for re-ratification and review. Terms of that contract somewhat are in play. We have this gray area between the two time periods, in my opinion. Again, we have a request to legal counsel, because my opinion is one thing, but we defer to actual legal counsel for our board. So that's part of what we have to do. Any other questions?
Is the status of the agreement active?
You need to ask legal counsel, who then refers and gives us that advice. Because I'm not the legal counsel for the board. I obviously know legal principles, right? But I take that hat off as far as advice to the board, and I give that to the people that we pay to do so.
All right, thank you, Trustee Miller.
Not a problem.
President Miller, apologize. You know what, I'm gonna switch between calling you Jim and Trustee Miller and President Miller. No disrespect, man. We've known each other many years, so it's just habit.
Not a problem. All right, we're gonna go into board reports at this point. Trustee Jerseys, do you have a board report for us this evening? Awesome, let's go.
I'm really excited. I'm gonna start visit the school tomorrow with our superintendents, and I'm excited to learn more about the schools. And I just wanna say Happy New Year to everyone. And I'm gonna visit all of them. So we're starting tomorrow at Madison and Pastonia Thursday. Montgomery tomorrow, yes, and Pastonia Thursday, yes.
Wonderful. Joe?
I'm very excited for this upcoming month. I've got a lot of sing-alongs that we're going to do. Just trying to also embed in the sing-alongs a little bit of the focus of what we do here at Cajon Valley. So I'm trying. I hope I'll gain in success in doing so. But right now, I'm embedding our world of work staff in some of the music we do. I'm trying to take a look at some SEL content. I'm not a teacher, but I do want to encourage the types of directions that we move in here in Cajon Valley. So that's kind of my intent, is to support our learning here, to press in to our students, our staff, and give access to principals, to board members, so that we can continue to develop those inroads of relationship and nurture that, so that they have this sense of trust between me and our principals. So that's really the goal that I have as far as that goes. And I also want to say I thoroughly appreciate, thank you, Karen, for bringing forth the our reading team to. I think that's another direction I would like to really support in any way I can. It's truly important to me, and I'd like to see Cajon Valley in particular in the state of California to soar as far as our achievement goes there. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Karen?
So the end of last year, before Christmas break, I got to spend time with several of the schools, and the energy was really high and lots of fun to really end the year like it was. And just, I know that everybody really needed their well-deserved holiday vacation time, and so hopefully everybody's coming back rested. I've heard some great things about the meeting yesterday, and just really the excitement. I've seen all the posts on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and so I'm really excited for this 2023. I was able to meet with the PTO Council today, and was just really excited to start that journey to understand more, wanting to learn from each of the schools what is going on, and hopefully getting those schools that don't have a community to really help to make that happen. And so just excited to be a part of that, so thank you.
Anthony?
I'll start with today the weather was not conducive to spending some time on my tractor. The ground was too wet. So my wife has a set Tuesday where she goes and volunteers at lunch at our son's middle school, Las Coaches Creek. And we're standing out there, you know, keeping an eye on things as it were. And I noticed like half the students that were there at the beginning of lunch are gone, more than half. Where did they go? And Miss Simcoe says, oh, they're in the gym. And they've got like an 8-way giant volleyball game going with, I don't know, it must have been 60 kids on the court, just bouncing this giant volleyball between each other. People watching in the stands. Up on the stage, there's a girl keeping score on a giant whiteboard for these teams. I mean, it's like fast paced. She's just marking this stuff. And I was told that Coach Yeagle was the one who basically set that up. So it was a really
sports leadership.
Cool thing to observe, the sports leadership program there. So that's today. Karen Minshew, I want to thank you for setting up and taking the time. I think we probably spent, an hour and a half in a meeting with San Diego Youth Services and the doctor from San Diego Youth Services. And I forget his name. Do you remember it off the top of your head?
Stephen Yella.
Dr. Stephen Yella. The focus, I'm pretty sure we spent most of the time focused on this universal screening tool that they use, not on all students, but with students whose parents have signed a permission slip that also talks about like this dinosaur school. And it's become clear over the course of 2 meetings that this screening tool was sort of inserted into the dinosaur school curriculum by either our county office or San Diego Youth Services. So when this board voted on the evidence-based curriculum of dinosaur school, and this kind of got attached to it, I'm awaiting some more information on the actual efficacy of this screening tool that San Diego Youth Services may then use to review it and determine if the student needs to be referred to a higher level of service, which they may also provide mental health services and that sort of thing. Question came up, and I asked the question on the Twitter page of San Diego Youth Services in July of 2020. They offer a series of talks to kids, to the youth, in their safe place. The talks are titled, Let's Talk Transitioning, Let's Talk Top Surgery, and it's like this week-long program. So I asked the doctor if, my line of questioning was, is it in the realm of possibility that a 6th or 7th or 8th grader may end up in your safe place receiving a talk on top surgery? I didn't really get a yes or no answer to it, but the question the doctor asked me, which kind of struck me, was something along the lines of, do you not want LGBT youth to have care? Which was kind of a shocking question to receive. And the doctor also informed me that our community, I think he was referring to East County, is not a safe place. And there's data to support this, is not a safe place for LGBT youth. So it kind of became clear to me that there's a belief our community is not a safe place, that they have a safe place, and in this safe place they give talks to kids on top surgery and transitioning. I had a conversation with Trustee Miller. Karen, you've been you have intimate knowledge of this stuff, and I think the questions you ask are excellent. And I believe, and I don't want to speak for you, Trustee Miller, but I believe the action moving forward is that permission slip that the parents sign will be modified. Perhaps the screening tool that San Diego Youth Services uses will be attached, so the parents are informed of that. And so I think things are, definitely moving in the right direction, in my opinion, on that. Let's see what else. I think that's it for my board report, so thank you.
Sure. So my report in one, it was a good meeting with you and I to catch up on that particular topic, plus others. I want to thank Karen for also taking the lead on this. We'll wordsmith a little bit more clarity into that opt-in. Again, right now it only applies to 2 students off the top of my head. I'm rather disappointed in the comment by Dr. whoever his name is. Probably a good thing I wasn't in that meeting. I think he probably handled it just fine. So no good. I'm looking forward myself to engaging in some training with Ryan Love and his staff later this month. That should be exciting. Again, I've always said this, we have two rules or two goals as trustees. Our job is to educate our students, keep them safe. So I take that very seriously. I've been able to engage in multiple aspects of our safety program, protocols and trainings, and all of us on the board have certain backgrounds and specialties that help us all collaboratively then come together and do what we need to do for our students. This is just a little bit of my background. Now I can comment back to you, Chrissy. You are completely 100% on the opposite side of interpreting what we're trying to do in that board policy. None of that is accurate. Zero. Okay, just so you know.
Can you
And
explain?
I will, outside of this, right? I mean, this is not a call-in, just like you went. No, this is me talking at this point now, Chrissy. Also, the general blatant overall comment that courts favor mothers as an example. This is my job, this is my day. No, that doesn't exist anymore. I was in court today. I represented Dad. After I was done, Mom had 4 hours, supervised. So no, those types of biases that existed probably early in my career, and now old in my career, I don't see that anymore. I see that our court system, for all of its failings, in fact, it is still the best court system that we have on the face of this planet. The judges, their biases and mistakes are not that. Their mistakes are based upon inexperience and not practicing in the area of law in which they now sit. That's a mistake by how they're being appointed by the governor. That's a mistake in how we do get to elect them or don't elect them. 94% or more of our judges come out of the government sector. That's prosecutors and criminal defense attorneys. How are they supposed to know what they're doing in a family law case when for 20 years they were a great prosecutor? You didn't see a single custody, support, visitation, division of business assets. No idea what they're doing. And it's very different to know the law when you've practiced it for decades than when you have to jump in and immediately start making decisions, right? That's where the mistakes come from in my experience. It takes judges 3 or 4 years in an area to learn it top down. It's just more difficult that way. And that's the system. And it's something that I complain about regularly in my day-to-day. But coming all the way back to the purpose of the board policy is to make things easier on people. It's to make it easier on our staff. It's to keep them in the classroom. It's to not have conflicts. It's to not have to be in front of a judge, not to have to be in front of a lawyer taking their deposition or cross-examining them on the stand. It is to allow them the opportunity to give a written declaration and avoid all of that. And while at the same point in time to ensure by going through staff and district protocols that what is presented is factual, not choosing parent to parent. That is not at all. If you find that in the draft, then somehow that's not the draft that I wrote, because that's not in there. So I can go further on separately, but for right now, that is not what that policy is all about. It's to help streamline and keep our teachers and our staff in schools and on job, on task. With that, we go to superintendent's report. Dr. Mashiro.
Thank you. First, I want to thank Joe and Karen for going to Excel and Ed and sitting in on some of the research and policy seminars. You were sending me information from that Julie was already working on in her presentation about the ills of practice across our country and what we need to do and how we can start here to be Mississippi of reading. And it's great that you're connected so deeply. And Jim, thank you for supporting us at Education 2.0 and for acknowledgement that Karen got, but also supporting our presentations and exhibition. And it's great that Juliana and Anthony are hitting the ground running out in schools, visiting principals, and excited to see Montgomery and also being with you this week. I'm gonna share a preview. We had Narelle Richard, the CEO and principal of Boston Global K-12, with some ideas about the future that Karen asked him to bring to a future board meeting, February board meeting. So he's gonna share the future, but I wanted to share the present of our high school. Share video.
Alcapons Community High School. We are focused on happy kids and healthy relationships on a pathway to gainful employment. We know that all of our students are different. They have different strengths, interests, and values. And we know that this fact is related across the entire nation. Our school design is based on the creation of a pathway for every scholar. We want every scholar to be successful and be able to use their own unique strengths, interests, and values in pursuing their future dreams.
Astoria allows me to explore my career interests into a more deeper level. Like I can feel like I'm discovering myself. I really know what I want to do in life now that I go here. I know what my skills are and how I can use them in the real world. And it's just this feeling of feeling more prepared and more ready for life. As soon as students enter our classroom, they really develop that sense of self and they understand our model. The buy-in is automatic. The students know exactly what they want to do and they're able to pursue their own path. Instead of us telling them exactly what they need to do, they can identify it themselves and they can advocate for themselves and work towards that. Seeing students that are so confident in themselves and their abilities and their futures is really heartwarming for me. So to be here and to see this with these students, it's really promising for our future.
The community feels very welcoming, very friendly, and so students are able to feel more comfortable with each other. And so with that sense of community, it really helps us succeed with our learning because we know that we can lean on each other and not just depend on ourselves.
I'm excited to come here every day because I have really great connections with my teachers and with my peers, and it feels like they really do care about me and what my goals are in life. Where compared to if I go to a normal school, I would just have to follow the steps of everybody else, and it wouldn't matter much to me as it does over here.
But we know that every student is unique with a wide variety of strengths, interests, and values. And what we want to do is provide them with as many opportunities as possible to investigate and explore those interests. We do that with a variety of classes such as cooking, broadcast, sports, different types of art, and we allow our students to have off-campus mentorships where they can explore within our community all of the different types of job opportunities that are available to them. We know that outside learning is important because students that have those opportunities are better prepared to enter gainful employment once they finish high school.
I love Bostonia as a parent because my student isn't lost in a sea of 4,000 other students. They get the individualized learning attention that they really need. They're not falling through the cracks here, and I really believe in this school and what it's done for my students and what it will do, and I feel like it will have such a great impact on their life now and in the future. It's an amazing place, and there needs to be more schools like this.
When a student can be themselves, it truly allows their creativity and learning to become exponential. The end result really is when you have confident kids that know what they want, they know what they're worth, and they speak with such passion, and it really allows for not only now but future generations to truly learn from them and become great people in society.
I'm anxious to tell you what's next, but I won't steal Narelle's thunder. I'll let him do that in February.
Is that okay?
Yep.
All right, with that, we adjourn the meeting at 7:26.